Arab billionaire CEO ripped the black waitress's shirt in restaurant. Her judo throw left him down. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get started. The scene is set at one of the most luxurious restaurants in the heart of downtown San Francisco. The lighting is soft, yet it highlights the gleaming silver cutlery and the shimmering glassware. It's the kind of place where the air is filled with the quiet hum of whispered conversations and clinking wine glasses. A place where status is defined not just by wealth, but by the subtle power that sits at each table. At the center of it all is a group of powerful people, but the one who stands out the most is Kamal Haroun, a billionaire CEO known for his ruthless business tactics. His tall frame and sharply tailored suit command attention. His demeanor, cold and calculating, makes everyone in the room feel like they are beneath him. But tonight, he has no idea that he's about to meet someone who will show him exactly where he stands. Enter Maya Harris, a young black waitress working her shift at the restaurant. Maya had seen all types of people come and go in the high-end dining world, but Kamal Haroun was different. He was the kind of man who felt entitled to everything, including the staff's dignity. Maya, though, didn't let her role define her. She was confident, her posture straight, her gaze steady, but she had learned over the years how to blend into the background when needed. She had dreams, too. Big dreams of becoming a judo champion. But for now, she had to make do with serving tables to make ends meet. As she moved between the tables, she caught the occasional glance from Haroun, but she had no time for him or anyone else in the room. She had a job to do, but Haroun didn't see it that way. At one point during the meal, he made an offhand comment, mocking Maya's appearance. His words were cutting, meant to belittle her in front of the other guests. "You should smile more. It'll make you look less invisible," he sneered, the smirk on his face growing wider as he looked around to see if anyone else was laughing at his cruel joke. The room went silent for a moment, and Maya's heart raced. She knew she should just let it slide, but something inside her snapped. It wasn't just the words, it was the way he said them. The way he believed he had the right to treat her as if she were beneath him. Maya took a deep breath. She wasn't going to let him get away with it. Not tonight. She stood tall, looked him in the eye, and with a calm voice that rang out over the room, she said, "You don't get to talk to me like that." Kamal's smirk faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered, his arrogance returning in full force. "What's your problem, sweetheart? Are you upset because I pointed out the obvious?" he mocked, his voice dripping with contempt. But Maya wasn't done. She didn't say another word. Instead, she moved swiftly, her body poised like she was about to take action. The next moment, she grabbed Kamal by the arm, using her judo training to execute a flawless throw, flipping him onto the ground in front of the entire restaurant. The room was silent for a long, tense second. Kamal lay there, stunned, as Maya stood over him. His shock was palpable, his eyes wide, unable to process what had just happened. His pride, once so unshakable, was shattered in an instant. Maya didn't say a word as she turned and walked away. The guests who had witnessed the moment were in shock, some pulling out their phones to record the aftermath. Kamal lay there, his expensive suit now crumpled, his authority completely undermined by the strength of one woman who had had enough. In that moment, the power dynamic had completely shifted. Maya had shown him exactly what happens when you underestimate someone. Kamal Haroun wasn't the only one with power in the room, and as Maya walked away, she knew she had just made a statement that would be heard far beyond the walls of that restaurant. The room remained silent for a few long seconds after Maya had executed the perfect judo throw. The sound of her calm footsteps echoed against the marble floor as she turned and walked away, her expression unshaken. The guests who had witnessed the scene were in complete shock, unsure of how to react. Some people stared in disbelief, while others slowly began to murmur among themselves. Kamal Haroun lay there, his pride shattered, his arrogance broken in an instant. His face flushed with a mixture of anger and embarrassment as he struggled to rise from the floor, his expensive suit crumpled and his dignity completely obliterated. He had never expected a reaction like this from someone he had dismissed as insignificant. Maya, however, was already far beyond his reach. She moved effortlessly through the room, her composure impeccable, leaving a stunned silence in her wake. The other waiters and staff, who had grown accustomed to the power dynamics of the rich and powerful, watched her with a mix of awe and fear. They had never seen anyone stand up to someone like Kamal before. Maya had taken the power from him in one swift movement, and it was clear to everyone in that room that the rules of this game had just changed. The rest of the dinner proceeded with a tense undercurrent. No one dared to speak too loudly. No one dared to act too bold. The rich men who had been talking business and laughing just moments ago now sat quietly. The energy in the room completely transformed. Kamal's attempts to regain his composure failed. He tried to continue with the evening's plans, but his usual confidence had evaporated. His words came out stilted, as if he no longer had the control he had once believed was his by right. He shot Maya a glare from across the room, but she ignored him completely. It was as if she had already moved past this encounter, unbothered by the rich man's anger. After the event, news of what happened at the restaurant spread quickly. Cell phone footage of the moment Maya took down Kamal went viral. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. The arrogant billionaire CEO, reduced to a helpless figure on the floor by a woman he had tried to humiliate. In the weeks that followed, Kamal's image began to crumble. The media picked up the story, and soon he found himself at the center of a scandal. His board members, who had once admired his ruthless approach to business, started questioning his judgment. His ability to maintain control was now in doubt, and business deals that he had been counting on fell apart one by one. Maya's actions had unintentionally sparked a chain reaction. People began to see her as a symbol of strength and resilience. She had not only stood up for herself, but had stood up to someone who thought they were above everyone else. She had been invisible in the eyes of many, but now, she was in the spotlight, and it felt like the world had finally acknowledged her worth. As for Maya, she didn't want the attention. She didn't care for the praise. She wasn't looking to become a hero. She simply did what she felt was right. Standing up for herself wasn't a choice, it was a necessity. And as her story spread, she became more determined than ever to keep pushing forward. Maya had her own dreams of a life where she wasn't defined by the restaurant apron or by the way people looked at her because of her skin color. She wanted to become a judo champion, to be someone who was respected for her skill and hard work. The throw that had left Kamal Haroun on the ground wasn't just a physical victory, it was a victory for her self-worth. But the most important thing Maya realized was that she had the power to change the narrative. In a world where the powerful often trample over the weak, she had proven that one person's courage could shift the entire balance of power. Kamal had been left humiliated, but Maya had walked away with something far more valuable: respect, both for herself and for those who had silently watched her fight for her place in the world. The days that followed saw Maya's life change in ways she hadn't anticipated. She received messages from people who had seen the video, thanking her for showing them that power didn't always come from money or status, but from the strength within. She began to train more intensely, pushing herself harder than ever before. She knew that this moment, this pivotal moment when she stood up against the man who thought he could humiliate her, would be the defining moment of her life. And she was determined to make the most of it. The days following the incident, Maya began to feel a shift in her life. At first, she was uncertain about the attention her actions had garnered. She hadn't intended to make headlines or become some sort of symbol for standing up against injustice. She simply did what she felt was right. But as the video of her judo throw went viral, Maya found herself inundated with messages from people around the world. Some were from complete strangers praising her courage, others from friends and family who were finally seeing her in a new light. Even her co-workers, who had always seen her as just another waitress, started treating her with more respect. It was strange, to say the least. Maya had always kept a low profile, never wanting to draw attention to herself. Now, she was the center of it. News outlets began covering the story, and Maya found herself doing interviews. The attention was overwhelming at times, but it also made her realize just how powerful her actions had been. She had shifted the dynamic in a room full of powerful people. She had shown the world that one person, even someone who was often overlooked, could change the course of an entire situation. Meanwhile, Kamal Haran's world was rapidly unraveling. His public image, once untouchable, was now in tatters. The footage of his humiliation had been shared across social media, and the backlash was swift. Clients and business partners who had once admired him began distancing themselves. The deal he had been negotiating for months fell apart. The media was ruthless, painting him as a bully who had been taken down by a waitress with nothing more than a judo throw. As the fallout from the incident continued, Kamal tried to regain control of the narrative, but it was too late. His attempts at damage control only made matters worse. He had never expected Maya to fight back, let alone in such a dramatic fashion. It was clear to him now that his arrogance had cost him far more than just his dignity. For Maya, the most significant change came when she received an unexpected phone call. It was from Kamal himself. He wanted to meet. At first, Maya wasn't sure whether she should accept the invitation. After everything that had happened, she didn't feel like she owed him anything. But a part of her was curious. What could he possibly want to say to her after everything that had gone down? She agreed to meet, and they set a time for the following week at a small, quiet cafe in the city. When Maya arrived, Kamal was already there, sitting at a corner table, looking out the window. His posture was slumped, his usual air of confidence replaced by a sense of defeat. He stood when she approached, a look of genuine remorse on his face. "Maya, I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low. "I treated you terribly, and I was wrong. What you did, it wasn't just impressive, it was necessary. I've spent my entire life believing that power is everything. But I've learned that it's respect that matters. I didn't respect you, and for that, I am truly sorry." Maya studied him for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly as she processed his words. It wasn't every day that a man like Kamal Haran admitted he was wrong. He had built his empire by crushing people beneath him, and to see him so vulnerable was a strange sight. But Maya wasn't interested in his apologies. She wasn't interested in the power he wielded or the business deals he could offer. She had done what she did because she believed in something greater than money or status. "I don't need your apology," she replied coolly. "What I did wasn't for you. It was for me, and it was for everyone who's ever been treated like they don't matter. It's easy to forget that people have value beyond what they can offer you, but that's the lesson I hope you've learned." Kamal nodded, understanding her words. For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of the situation hanging in the air. Maya wasn't interested in making him feel better. She wasn't there to fix him. She was there because she had to be. Her actions had already spoken louder than words ever could. As they parted ways that day, Kamal offered to help Maya with anything she needed. He suggested he could open doors for her in the business world, even offering to sponsor her judo career. But Maya declined. She didn't need his help. What she had achieved was the result of her own strength, her own determination, and she wasn't going to let anyone take credit for that. In the months that followed, Maya continued to train harder than ever before. The video of her judo throw had ignited something inside her, and she knew that this was only the beginning. She had gained more than just respect. She had gained control over her own destiny. Kamal, on the other hand, found himself in a much more difficult position. The damage to his reputation was permanent. No amount of money or influence could undo what had happened. The story of the billionaire CEO who was taken down by a waitress would follow him for the rest of his life. For Maya, however, the future was full of possibilities. She had proven that anyone, no matter their background or status, could stand up for what was right. And now, she was ready to prove it again, in the ring and in life. Months passed, and the city of San Francisco buzzed with rumors and whispers about the infamous encounter between Maya Harris and Kamal Haran. Maya's life had changed in ways she hadn't expected. Her name had become synonymous with courage and self-respect, and while the attention was overwhelming at times, it also opened doors she never thought possible. Kamal Haran, once a towering figure in the business world, now found himself a shadow of his former self. His arrogant demeanor was a thing of the past, replaced by an introspective man trying to rebuild his reputation. Maya, however, wasn't interested in his transformation or the offers he had made to help her. She wasn't looking for handouts or validation from someone who had once belittled her. She was focused on her own goals, the ones she had set long before that fateful night. Maya's passion for judo had always been her driving force, and now she trained harder than ever, determined to make her mark in the world of sports. She knew that her story wasn't just about a judo throw or standing up to a billionaire CEO. It was about proving to herself that she could rise above any challenge life threw at her. One day, Maya received a call from a well-known sports agent who had been following her story. He had seen the viral video and was impressed by her resilience and skill. He believed she had the potential to make it big in judo and wanted to help her secure sponsorships and professional opportunities. Maya listened to his pitch, but she wasn't ready to jump at the chance just yet. She had worked hard to get where she was, and she didn't want to rely on anyone else's connections or charity. But the agent wasn't giving up. He believed in her talent, and after several discussions, Maya agreed to give it a shot. With his help, she was able to secure her first sponsorship deal with a major athletic brand. Her hard work, dedication, and the attention her story had generated led to opportunities she had never imagined. As Maya's judo career began to take off, Kamal Haroun found himself in a more difficult position. The damage to his reputation had been done, and no matter how hard he tried to fix the public perception of him, it felt like every step forward was met with 2 steps back. He had lost business partners, investors, and clients who once admired him. Even though he had apologized to Maya, the stain of his arrogance and the way he had treated her remained in the public eye. One evening, Maya attended a charity gala hosted by one of her new sponsors. The event was packed with influential people from the sports, business, and entertainment worlds. As she walked through the venue, she spotted Kamal across the room, standing alone near a bar. His usual confident posture was gone, replaced by a man who appeared lost, disconnected from the crowd around him. Maya hesitated for a moment. She wasn't sure if she should approach him. After all, their last interaction had been far from pleasant. But as she watched him, she couldn't help but notice the difference in him now. He was no longer the arrogant billionaire CEO who had belittled her. He seemed like someone who had learned a painful lesson about humility. Taking a deep breath, Maya walked over to him. Kamal turned when he saw her approaching, his eyes widening in surprise. He stood up straighter, as if preparing for an apology. "Maya," he said, his voice softer than it had been before. "I didn't expect to see you here." Maya nodded, her expression calm but not unkind. "I didn't expect to be here either," she replied. "But things change." Kamal shifted awkwardly, clearly unsure of what to say next. Maya, however, wasn't interested in rehashing the past. "I'm doing well," she said, her voice steady. "I've got a lot of people supporting me now. People who actually see me for who I am, not just what I can do for them." Kamal nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of admiration and regret. "I know I've done things I can't take back," he said, "but I want you to know that I see you now. And I respect what you've done." Maya smiled faintly. "I don't need your respect," she said. "I've always had it for myself. But I appreciate the apology. That's enough for me." With that, Maya turned and walked away, not looking back. She wasn't interested in making amends or closing the chapter of her life with Kamal Haroun. She had already moved on, and she was focused on her future. Kamal watched her go, feeling a sense of loss and understanding. He had been humbled by her strength, and it was a lesson he would carry with him for the rest of his life. Meanwhile, Maya continued to excel, proving that one act of courage can change everything. She had become more than just the waitress who took down a billionaire. She had become a symbol of resilience and self-worth. And as she stepped onto the mat for her first official judo competition, she knew that the true victory was not in defeating others, but in conquering herself. Maya's life had changed dramatically since the night she faced Kamal Haroun, and it was becoming clearer every day that she had stepped into a new chapter, one where her actions spoke louder than words. Her rise wasn't just about judo or the viral video that had brought her recognition. It was about proving her worth to herself and everyone who had ever doubted her. As her professional judo career began to take off, she found herself traveling to competitions, meeting influential figures in the sports world, and gaining sponsorships that opened doors she had once only dreamed of. But despite her growing success, Maya still carried the weight of her past. She had come from humble beginnings, a waitress who had been overlooked and underestimated by people who saw her as nothing more than a worker behind the scenes. Now, she was a contender in a sport that demanded strength, discipline, and resilience. But in the quiet moments between training and competitions, Maya couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought her here. She often thought about Kamal, not with bitterness, but with the understanding that his actions, while cruel, had led to something significant. He had pushed her into a moment of self-realization, one that had forced her to stand up for herself when no one else would. That night in the restaurant, when she had thrown him to the ground, had been the catalyst for everything that followed. She had stepped into her own power, and it had set everything in motion. She had become the person she had always hoped to be, the person who didn't wait for permission, the person who claimed her own worth. Maya's first major judo competition was approaching, and the pressure was mounting. She had trained relentlessly for this moment, but as the day drew closer, doubts crept in. Was she ready? Would she be able to prove that her viral moment wasn't a fluke? She had trained with some of the best, but nothing could truly prepare her for the intensity of the competition. The night before the event, Maya stood in front of the mirror, her thoughts swirling. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from her old friend, a fellow competitor who had always supported her, reminding her that she belonged there just as much as anyone else. "You've already won by getting here," the message read. "Tomorrow is just a step in the journey. Go out there and show them who you are." Maya smiled to herself. She had already won. No matter what happened the next day, she had already proven her strength, her resilience, and her value. The next morning, Maya stepped onto the mat, her heart pounding, but her mind clear. The crowd cheered, but she focused only on her opponent. She had done this hundreds of times in training, but this was different. This was the moment where everything came together. As the match began, Maya's opponent came at her with everything she had, but Maya was ready. She used her opponent's momentum against her, applying a perfect throw that left the crowd gasping. It wasn't just a victory for Maya in that moment. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told they weren't enough. She had proven, once again, that she was more than capable. When the match ended, and her hand was raised in victory, Maya's thoughts drifted to the people who had helped her get to this point. She thought about the training, the sacrifices, and the moments of doubt she had pushed through. She thought about her family, who had always believed in her, even when she hadn't believed in herself. And she thought about Kamal. His presence in her life, though painful, had pushed her to become the person she was meant to be. As the crowd continued to cheer, Maya took a deep breath, knowing that this was only the beginning. There were more challenges ahead, more moments where she would have to fight for her place in the world. But she was ready. She had earned her place, and nothing was going to take that away from her. Maya's victory in her first major judo competition was a turning point, but it wasn't the end of her journey. She had proven her strength on the mat, but now she had to prove her worth in the world outside of it. Her rise from a humble waitress to a champion athlete had been swift, but it was also fraught with challenges. As she stepped into the world of professional judo, the competition grew fiercer, and the stakes became higher. No longer was she just fighting for a spot in the competition. She was fighting for recognition, for respect, and for the life she had always dreamed of. After her victory, Maya was approached by a series of sponsors eager to back her, seeing the potential in her story and her skill. But she knew that these deals weren't just about money. They were about power, and she wasn't sure if she was ready to give away that power so easily. She had built her career on her terms, and she wasn't about to let anyone take that from her. Still, she had to admit that the opportunity was tempting. With sponsorships, she could afford better training, travel to international competitions, and have the kind of exposure that would solidify her place in the sport. As her profile grew, she started getting invitations to high-profile events, but she wasn't sure if she was prepared to face the kind of people who had once looked down on her. The world she was entering was one of exclusivity and wealth, worlds that had once been closed to her, but now she had the key. Yet, with each offer that came her way, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more at stake than just money or fame. It wasn't long before her suspicions were confirmed. One day, she received a phone call from Kamal Haroun, the billionaire CEO who had once tried to humiliate her in the restaurant. He wanted to meet again, and though she hesitated, she agreed. She didn't know what to expect from him this time. When they met, Kamal was different. The arrogance that had once defined him was gone, replaced by a man who seemed weary, humbled, and, for the first time, truly aware of the power that others held over him. "Maya," he began, his tone more genuine than it had ever been before. "I know I've made mistakes in the past, and I'm not asking for your forgiveness. But I want you to understand something. What happened that night? It changed me. It changed everything. And I can't go back to the way things were. Maya listened, but she wasn't sure how to respond. She didn't need Kamal's apology, nor did she need him to validate her. She had already validated herself by taking control of her own life. I'm glad to hear that you've changed, she said quietly. But I didn't do what I did for you. I did it for me. Kamal nodded, understanding the weight of her words. I get it, he replied. But I also want to offer you something. I've been in this world for a long time, and I know how the game is played. I can help you navigate it. I can help you build a legacy, not just in sports, but in business, in a way that would allow you to keep your independence. Maya didn't say anything at first, considering his offer. She knew the power Kamal could bring. He had built an empire, after all. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that she didn't want to play the game by anyone else's rules. She had already built her reputation on her own terms, and she wasn't about to change that for a chance to secure more sponsorship deals or recognition. Thank you, she said finally, her voice steady. But I'm not interested in playing anyone else's game. I'm building my own. Kamal looked at her, a mix of respect and resignation in his eyes. I respect that, he said. But if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be here. Maya left the meeting feeling lighter, more certain of the path she was on. She had been offered a way into a world that many would kill for, but she had chosen to carve her own way. She didn't need Kamal's influence, or anyone else's. She was already creating her own legacy, one judo competition at a time. As Maya continued to train and compete, her reputation as a fierce competitor grew. She wasn't just the waitress who had taken down a billionaire CEO. She was now a champion in her own right. And every victory she earned, every challenge she overcame, added another layer to her story. Maya was no longer a woman waiting for permission. She had taken control of her own destiny, and the world was finally starting to see her for who she truly was, a force to be reckoned with. Maya had reached a point in her life where every decision, every move she made, felt like a crossroads. She had proven herself as a judo champion, earning respect in the sports world and beyond. But as her career flourished, the pressure to maintain her success and navigate the complexities of the professional world grew heavier. Despite the attention she had garnered, Maya remained grounded in the core values that had brought her to this point: self-respect, integrity, and independence. The offers continued to pour in, from sponsors eager to back her, and from people wanting to be part of her journey. But Maya knew that her worth was not defined by the brands she wore or the endorsement deals she signed. She had built her own legacy, and it wasn't for sale. Yet, even with her focus on the future, she couldn't escape the shadows of her past. Kamal Haran, once a man who had humiliated her, had become a distant memory. But that memory was still a part of the story she carried with her. When Kamal's name resurfaced in the media, Maya was caught off guard. The headlines weren't about his business empire or his ruthless dealings anymore. Instead, they were about his fall from grace. Kamal had been exposed for his role in a major financial scandal, one that shook the tech industry to its core. His empire, once untouchable, was crumbling. The same arrogance that had defined him had led to his downfall. And it was clear that the world had not forgiven him for the way he had treated people, especially Maya. As she read the articles, Maya felt a strange mixture of emotions. She wasn't happy about Kamal's fall. She didn't find satisfaction in seeing someone else suffer, even if that person had once wronged her. But she couldn't ignore the fact that his fall was a direct result of his actions. He had built his empire on manipulation, and now, the very thing that had made him invincible was the thing that was tearing him apart. Maya wasn't interested in revenge. She had never been. But she couldn't help but reflect on the irony of it all. Kamal had once looked down on her, thinking she was just another waitress. Now, his name was tarnished, and she was a champion in her own right. Maya didn't allow herself to dwell on the past for long. She had more important things to focus on. As her career took her to new heights, she continued to train, determined to take on the world's best and show them that she was more than just the woman who had thrown a billionaire CEO to the ground. But even as her success continued to grow, she couldn't help but wonder if Kamal had ever really changed. She had seen him at his lowest, had watched as he admitted his mistakes and asked for forgiveness. But now, seeing him at his worst, she realized that some people never truly change. They only learn how to hide their flaws better. It didn't matter to Maya. She had moved on, and she was determined to keep moving forward. But the past, as much as she wanted to leave it behind, would always be a part of her. Maya had risen from the shadows, but she had learned the hard way that the road to success was never as easy as it seemed. There were always obstacles, always people who would try to hold you back. But Maya had proven time and time again that no one could define her worth but herself. As she stood at the top of her game, she knew one thing for sure: the journey was just beginning. Maya's journey had taken her to unimaginable heights. As her judo career continued to soar, the media buzzed with stories about her rise from an underestimated waitress to a world-class athlete. She had become a symbol of resilience, of taking control of your own destiny, and of never backing down from a fight. But as her fame grew, so did the pressure. Everywhere she went, there were cameras, reporters, and people eager to know what was next for the woman who had shocked the world. Maya had never been one to crave attention, but now she had to navigate a world where she was always in the spotlight. It was both exhilarating and exhausting. But despite the constant pressure, Maya never lost sight of what was truly important to her: the fight. The fight to prove herself, to continue pushing her limits, and to stay true to the person she had become. Her next big challenge came in the form of the World Judo Championships, the ultimate test for any athlete in her sport. The competition was fierce, and the athletes she faced were some of the best in the world. Maya knew that this was the moment that could define her legacy, and she was determined to make the most of it. As she prepared for the championship, Maya thought back to the day she had faced Kamal Haran. She had stood up to him when no one else would. That moment had been her turning point. It had been the day she found her strength, her voice, and her purpose. She had proven to herself and the world that she was more than just the person others saw her as. Now, in the pressure cooker of the World Judo Championships, Maya was ready to prove that she belonged at the top. The matches were intense. Each opponent brought their own unique style, but Maya's focus never wavered. She used the techniques she had honed over years of hard work and sacrifice. Her body moved with precision, her mind sharp and calculating. But the fight wasn't just physical. It was mental, too. With each victory, the weight of expectation grew heavier. Everyone was watching her, waiting for her to falter. But Maya refused to let the pressure get to her. She had been underestimated for far too long. Now, she would show the world that she was more than capable of handling the spotlight. As the final match approached, Maya's nerves were on edge. Her opponent was a seasoned champion, a fighter known for their strength and experience. But Maya had something they didn't: heart. She had faced more than just physical challenges. She had overcome obstacles in life that had tested her to the core. Now, she was ready to face the ultimate challenge. The match began, and from the very first move, it was clear that Maya was in control. She moved with the grace of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. Every step calculated, every motion purposeful. Her opponent was fast, but Maya was faster. Her training had prepared her for moments like this, moments when everything was on the line. As the match wore on, Maya could feel the tension in the air. Her opponent was growing desperate, trying to find an opening, but Maya didn't give them an inch. With a final move, she executed a flawless throw, sending her opponent to the mat in a moment of pure triumph. The crowd erupted in applause as Maya stood over her opponent, her chest heaving, her heart racing. She had done it. She had won the World Judo Championship, and in doing so, she had solidified her place in the history of the sport. But more than that, she had proven something to herself. She had proven that she was capable of achieving greatness, that no one, no matter how powerful or arrogant, could define her. In the days that followed, Maya received countless offers for sponsorships and media appearances, but she declined most of them. She had already proven everything she needed to prove. The spotlight no longer mattered to her. What mattered was the journey, the long hours of training, the sacrifices, and the strength it took to get here. Maya was content knowing that she had earned her success on her own terms. As the years passed, Maya's legacy only grew. She continued to compete, winning title after title, but it was clear that her influence stretched far beyond the mat. She had become a role model for people all over the world, especially for those who had been told they weren't enough. Maya Harris had gone from being a waitress who was overlooked and underestimated to a global icon. And through it all, she never lost sight of the most important lesson. She was the one who defined her worth. Maya's story had come full circle, and now, as she stood at the top of her career, she understood that the real victory wasn't just about the medals or the recognition. It was about the journey. It had been a long road, one that had started with a simple act of defiance in a restaurant, a moment when she decided that she would no longer be invisible, no longer be underestimated. She had faced challenges that would have broken others, but instead, those challenges had shaped her into the woman she was today. The world had witnessed her strength on the mat, but what they didn't see was the quiet determination that had fueled her every step. The hard work, the sacrifices, the countless hours spent perfecting her skills. It was all part of the story that had led her to this moment. Maya knew that success wasn't a destination, it was a lifelong journey. She had learned to be proud of her accomplishments, but she never allowed herself to become complacent. She continued to train, to push herself, knowing that there would always be new challenges to face. But now, she approached those challenges with a sense of calm confidence. She had learned that the key to true strength wasn't in defeating others, but in mastering herself. As Maya stood in the spotlight, the cheers of the crowd still ringing in her ears, she realized that her victory was about more than just winning. It was about proving to herself that she could rise above the obstacles that life threw at her. She had come from a place where people overlooked her, where she was just another face in the crowd. But now, she was a force to be reckoned with. And she had done it on her own terms. Her success wasn't just about the gold medals or the sponsorships. It was about the impact she had on the world, on the people who looked up to her, and on herself. Maya had become a symbol of resilience, of strength, and of self-respect. She had shown that no matter where you come from or how others perceive you, you have the power to define your own worth. As the years went by, Maya's influence only grew. She became a mentor to younger athletes, a speaker at events, and an advocate for those who had been overlooked and underestimated. She used her platform to share her story, to inspire others to believe in themselves, and to remind them that their dreams were worth fighting for. And through it all, she never forgot where she had come from. Maya stayed grounded, always remembering the woman she had been before the world knew her name. She remembered the waitress who had been mocked and dismissed, the athlete who had been told she wasn't good enough, and the person who had decided to take control of her own destiny. Maya knew that her story was just one example of the power that lies within us all. It was the power to rise above adversity, to push through the hardest moments, and to keep moving forward, no matter what. Maya had achieved greatness, but more than that, she had achieved peace with herself. She had built her legacy, not on the applause of others, but on the quiet strength of her own will. As she looked out over the crowd at her final competition, Maya felt a sense of fulfillment. She had done everything she set out to do, and she had done it with grace and integrity. She had proven to the world that she was more than just a waitress, more than just an athlete. She was a woman who had defined her own path and created her own future. And that was the greatest victory of all. Maya Harris's journey is an incredible example of overcoming adversity and achieving greatness against all odds. From being an underestimated waitress to becoming a judo champion, Maya's story is a powerful reflection of the strength and resilience found in many Black stories. This story is not just about athletic achievement, but also about the profound personal transformation that takes place when someone stands up for themselves, refuses to be overlooked, and takes control of their destiny. Her rise to success exemplifies how every challenge can be an opportunity to define oneself, and how Black stories are often filled with hidden power, waiting to be acknowledged. As Maya continues to excel in her sport, her impact goes beyond the mat. She becomes an inspiration to others, showing that no matter where you start, you have the power to change your life. Maya's story is a reminder of the importance of perseverance and self-worth, something that resonates deeply in many Black stories. It proves that it's not just about the battles fought in the public eye, but also about the quiet moments of strength that often go unnoticed. The way Maya navigates her success is a testament to the untold stories of resilience and determination that are often overlooked. This is the heart of many Black stories, rising above the noise, proving one's value, and leaving a legacy that inspires generations to come.